Welcome to episode 19 of the Serial Chillers podcast, brought to you by Beer Savage. I am your host, Jesse, and thank you all so much for listening. Today I've got two guests on the internet, both returning from episode 7 to settle a score from their last tie, Ariel and Aaron. Ariel's going to bring us the story of Slender Man attack, and Aaron is here to compete for a win. Producer Greg is also going to be hanging out with us tonight as well. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe if you're an iTunes user. And use promo code SerialChillers at beersavage.com for 20% off your entire purchase. And as usual, sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 19 of the Serial Chillers podcast.
I smell like a dead body. I spent all day with a dead body. That shit sticks to you. That's, as a producer, I want that.
Okay, so you guys ready to get rolling then?
Yes.
All right, well, welcome everybody to episode 19 of the Serial Chillers podcast. Episode 19 of 1 million, I should add. Sorry. Just trying to limit myself. I don't want to go too far with this podcast. 1 million episodes seems like it would be a proper place to stop. So, today, I have all internet guests. We've got producer Greg hiding over in the corner.
Yeah.
Yes. Producer Greg, how goes it?
It goes good. It goes well, I'm sorry.
Superman does good. You do well.
I forgot about that.
Greg has a theme song now, you guys. He's done so well and put in so much work at the show. He gets a theme song, so... Also across the internet tonight, we have returning both episode 7. They tied that night. Aaron and Ariel. Aaron, Seattle, one of Seattle's finest.
Oh, thanks.
Look at this, Ariel. I did research. She is a marriage and family therapist. Look at that. Look at that.
I am correct.
So everybody is here. How's everybody feeling?
I feel great.
Good.
Ditto.
Good. Aaron's lying, but that's okay.
I am too.
So Greg is not going to be competing today. Greg is going to be just producer Greg. You may not even hear from him again if we're lucky. So let's talk about what the show is. Each week I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell the story of an infamous serial killer. Throughout the show, you guys will chime in and have stories that are true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious. Or if you just want to chime in with some bullshit, that's good too. There will be several questions throughout the show that will be worth somewhere between 250 and infinity points. I've changed the scoring a little bit. There will be multiple choice, and some you will have to stab at. Most questions are able to be stabbed at for bonus points, but if you take a stab, that's your only guess. Lastly, if you have questions about the questions, make sure to ask your questions, because I kind of answer questions about questions unless you never ask questions. Any questions?
No. Not at this moment.
Then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. Today, our serial killer, tell me, have you guys heard of, I actually have it written down here as Dr. Fuckface Harold Shipman. His birth name is just Dr. Harold Frederick Shipman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The fuckface I added if you couldn't tell.
All right.
So,
no, I have not heard of him.
As always.
I have either.
Perfect. That's how I like it. Question number 1. What year is Harold Shipman born? This one, ladies, there is no multiple choice or stabbing. The closest... to the answer is going to get 250 points.
1943.
Aaron.
Random guess. Mine is 1949.
Wow.
It's so small. Mm-hmm.
We
were thinking the same decade. That's weird. It's because we're on the same wavelength.
You guys are on the same wavelength. I need you to let me speak because you guys were both 3 years off at 1946. But how the game works is Price is Right rules if we get to this point. So as Aaron went over by 3 years, incredible guess, by the way. That's wow. I'm impressed at how this game is starting. Yeah. Ariel is going to get 250 points to start this one off. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I wish I had some Owen Wilson drops here for you guys.
Nope. This is unacceptable.
It is. So it has began. Ariel takes a 250-0 lead. I will tell you guys this. I knew how competitive you were going to be.
I'm not competitive.
Okay. So
I'm the least competitive, so I win.
I knew how competitive you guys were going to be, so I made it a serial killer that I knew a little bit about, and I knew that you guys would enjoy. Additionally, tonight we have 11 questions.
Wow. Damn.
So you guys are really going to get put to the test here. Okay.
Okay.
So Ariel's got the 250-0 lead now, but no worries, plenty of time. So January 14th, 1946, Dr. Harold Frederick Shipman is born on the Bestwood Council Estate in Nottingham, England. So there are a bunch of English words and names used when you research a English serial killer. 100% going to butcher every one of them, and I'm very sorry. We'll just start out there.
Well, you could say it in an English accent. I'm sure it'll help with the pronunciation.
Oh, man. I might offend more people doing that.
I want to hear you do it, though.
Right? Yeah, he's from, Nottingham, England. There you go. That actually was kind of nice, huh? Yeah. I feel like I'm from there. Someone get me some bangers and mash. So Harold is the second of 4 children to Harold Frederick Shipman the Sr., who was a lorry driver, and Vera Britton. So for those of us who are American, a lorry driver is a truck driver.
I knew that because of Top Gear.
Yeah, I actually did know that one, but there are several words that I ended up translating for the outline here that I was like, what in the fuck does that mean? I was watching documentaries, and they're like, for this type of behavior, he should have been struck off. And I was like, oh, well, what is that? What's that mean? So there's a lot of interesting turns of phrases that I was not aware of until now. So thank you, Dr. Harold Fuckface. He's born in 46. There's not a lot about his early life. If you guys have listened to the show, and I know you guys have been on it, that's one of my favorite things about diving into these serial killers is I want to know like what crazy shit happened in their early life. And there really isn't a lot to be found for Dr. Fuckface. But it seemed to be relatively normal throughout. Like in all of my research, I've got that he was born, and I've got that little bit of information. And my next entry here on the chronological timeline is in October 1961, so he's 15 years old. He lived a very mundane, very normal childhood up until now. He's an average student, but a star athlete, so it seems to be getting him kind of through some of the things that he maybe wouldn't have gotten through without the star athleticism. We're all ready to question number 2. In which sport did he excel? You may stab for 1,000 points, but I do have 4 multiple choice options. In which sport does he excel? Remember, Nottingham, England. Is anybody is that a stab at rugby there?
Oh wait. That's like an English sport, right?
I don't know. Ariel, do you want to hear the multiple choice options?
Yes. I'm going to go with rugby.
All right. Is it A, cricket, B, rugby, C, fencing, or D, crew?
What is crew?
Like rowing.
Oh. I'm going to go with cricket.
So, in 1961, Dr. Fuckface wins the award for most improved rugby player. Yes! Aaron with the stab gets 1,000 points on question number 2. Builds a little bit of a cushion heading into the rest of the competition.
Suck it, Ariel.
She's not competitive at all, as it turns out.
I'm not competitive.
No one can tell.
Getting my scores in order here. We have Aaron with 1,000, Ariel with 250. 9 questions to go, guys. Plenty of time. Great stab. Harold was a great rugby player. There's some footage of him playing rugby in like high school. It's kind of bizarre to see some like early. Someone's like, hey, you know what? I actually have footage of that if you want to check it out. He was a beast. He was a very white English Marshawn Lynch. So in 1961, or in early 62, his mother Vera is diagnosed with lung cancer. He's very close to his mother, so this is kind of a big deal for him, and he would be by her bed, and he would take care of her as much as possible. And when it got sort of to late stages, Vera was in a lot of pain, so a nurse would come every morning and every night and give her shots of morphine just to subside the pain. And some people think that just led to her being killed earlier, because Vera does die. And something Dr. Fuckface remembers is, as a kid, whenever the nurse would come and they would inject the morphine to his mother, he said it was a direct injection into her chest, that within seconds he would see the pain fade away from her. And he loved to see that, she would go from hurt and broken and damaged to feeling just back on top of the world almost instantly, because she got this little dose of medicine.
Interesting.
So he's sort of got this weird complex already. It feels like it pays extra close attention to this as we talk about him. This is before cancer's more widely survivable, so it was pretty much a death sentence in 1962. She's just lasting as long as she can. And he decides, when he's seeing his mother go through all this, that he's going to go into medicine one day. So as you guys got a hint from earlier, he is Dr. Fuckface, so he will go on to do some things. So in June of 63, he's now 17. His mother, Vera, finally dies of the lung cancer. It is said that essentially from the time that it became debilitating to the time that she died, any given moment that he could be by her side, he was. So he was very good at taking care of her. It was said that his dad worked very hard and sort of a workaholic, and he was a lorry driver, so he was always out and away anyway. So Harold had a lot of the responsibility thrown upon him. And we've kind of seen this too in some of the serial killers we've talked about, is where it's not maybe necessarily something really traumatic, or, well, traumatic is different for different people, I think, but something, maybe seen for most people as being like really fucked up. This was just like, hey, I need you to take care of your mom, but this seemed to really affect Harold Shipman. So in 1965, he finishes high school with decent grades. Like we said, it was hard for him, but being an athlete got him through. It was said that he wasn't very interested in things that most high schoolers were. He wasn't into girls. He wasn't into social events. Even though he was the star rugby player, it wasn't it wasn't for him. He just wanted to play rugby and go home. He didn't want to go to parties. He didn't listen to music. He cared not about anything but being with his family and studying medicine. So he decides he's going to apply to several medical schools, even with his shoddy grades. This is right out of high school at 18. What happens with his first applications? Question number 3. This is multiple choice only. Is he A, rejected by all of his applications? B, he gets into school, but not one of his choosing, like a much lower school. He is accepted to Leeds University, or he is given a full ride scholarship, but additionally not to a school of his choosing. Rejected from all schools, got into a school, not of his choosing. He's accepted to Leeds University, which I was made to understand is one of the top universities in all of England, and given a full ride scholarship, also not to his choice. So remember, this is his first round of applications.
I'm going to say that he gets rejected from all of them.
Ariel.
I don't know. I kind of like the Leeds one. I'm going to go with that one.
And you will score points on that one. In his first round of applications, Dr. Fuckface Harold Shipman is accepted to Leeds University Medical School, England. Climbing her way back. I lost my pen.
Oh, no.
I'm flying through the air right now. This is not good. All right. So Ariel scores 250 on that one. She is now within striking distance, 500 to 1,000 after 3 questions. A lot of questions left. Guys. So, 1966, Harold's now 20. He meets Primrose May Oxtoby on a bus. They hit it off within a few rides together. So, essentially, from what I understand, he, gave her the old wink and smile on the first ride. And the second time he saw her, he maybe mentioned how nice her hair looked. And they grew this relationship on the bus very slowly. But once they got into it, things heated up quickly. That's right. Can you believe it? Dr. Fuckface Harold Shipman is a quick mover. So he meets her in July and marries her just a few months later. She is 17 at the time, and it is found out that when they become married, she is already 5 months pregnant. So, very prim and proper young lady. They needed to get married quickly, trying to hide it as fast as they could. So, Valentine's Day, 1967, he has his firstborn child, Sarah Rosemary Shipman. And this was all within about a year of meeting Primrose May Oxtoby, now Primrose May Fuckface. So, October 1970, he is now 24 years old. He takes his finals at Leeds and graduates, gaining an MB.CHB, which is, again, not a degree that people get here in the United States, so I was very unfamiliar with it. But it is a medicine bachelor's and a children's bachelor's. So essentially these two combined for him to be able to do certain types of general practice work. But he's not... these people are referred to as doctors in England, but they are not the highest of all doctors. The MB.CHB. I might be very incorrect. Please correct me if I am. On April 21st, 1971, his second child, Christopher Frederick Shipman, is born. Wow. Working fast. Wow. On September of 1972, he receives his diploma in child health. So this takes him over the top. He is now a GP. He is away from this MB.CHB that he had earlier, and he is the real deal. So later, in 1974, he joins medical practice in Yorkshire, England. And he's there, and he's doing very well. And everybody seems to like him. His patients, the doctors, all is looking up for Harold Shipman. But all of a sudden, he starts having these unexpected blackouts. He'll be working on a patient, and he'll just sort of slump over onto the bed and fall down and kind of convulse or shake a little bit. He's going to be diagnosed as epileptic, but it's going to turn out that he's going to be wrongfully diagnosed as epileptic, which brings us to question number 4. What was the actual cause of his blackouts? This is multiple choice only as well. Is it A, he is faking them? B, it turns out he is actually epileptic. They misdiagnosed the misdiagnosis. Is it C, drug addiction, or D, fainting spells? Fainting spells. Is he faking them? Misdiagnosis of a misdiagnosis, drug addiction, or fainting spells?
I'm going to let Ariel go first on this one.
I'm torn, but I'm going to go with, faking it. He's faking it.
She says Dr. Harold Shipman is faking it.
Go ahead. Drug addiction.
Aaron says drug addiction. So he is diagnosed as epileptic wrongfully and is actually addicted to the drug pethidine. Pethidine. Go take 2. So he's suspected of illegally prescribing this to patients and taking it for himself. Aaron does score another 250 there. Goes up 1250 to 500. Still plenty of questions to go. But I mean, there's not like a million questions to go. So, don't wait.
There are episodes to come of this show.
Don't sleep. Yes, there are. Not a million anymore, Aaron. I think it's like 999,981 more.
Right. Are there even that many serial killers?
Yes, Ariel, there are.
How many
Okay,
people
that
are
was
on
me.
Earth, Ariel? What
Sorry.
are the statistics?
Sorry.
Okay, so we have 1250 to 750, 500. Sorry, I added the wrong two things. Okay, 1250
I'll
to
take
so 1250 to 500. Aaron, after 4 questions. Moving on, in March of 1975, at 28, he is said to have killed his first victim, Eva Lyons, on the day before her 71st birthday. And this is by his own admission much later, because at the time nobody suspected anything or believed that anything was out of the normal at all during this time. So later in 75, he is forced out of his practice by his partners due to his drug addiction. One partner in one of the documentaries that I watched is quoted as saying that Shipman came up to him when there are suspicions and said, you know what, listen, you're the only one I trust. I am addicted to drugs, but if you cover for me, I am recovering, and this will all go away soon. And this doctor was a really good friend to him, and he did that. He covered for him. No, he fucking didn't. They kicked him out of the practice immediately. They were not going down with Harold Fuckface Shipman, and who would? So right after this, he enters a rehab at the Retreat of Psychiatric Center in York. In November of 1975, he's arrested for forgery of pethidine prescriptions while in rehab at the retreat. He is not very good at rehab, just like life, as it turns out. This guy is all downhill from here, you guys, just so you know. In February of 1976, Dr. Harold Shipman pleads guilty to 3 offenses of obtaining a controlled drug by deception, 3 of unlawful possession of a controlled drug, and 2 charges of forging declarations of exemption from prescription charges. He was fined for all of these charges, and if he offended again, then there would be a subsequent hearing. So, yeah, here's a few $100 fine, slap on the wrist, you're out of here, brother. However, they did take his license for a short time, and he was made to stop practicing for 1 year. He couldn't get a job for an additional 264 days after his 1-year suspension. So in 1977, he finally gets a job and becomes a clinical medical officer. His responsibilities were only to examine infants and give advice about their development before they went in and saw the actual doctor. So he's been given this demotion after getting caught for being a drug addict, and then being caught once more for trying to get some more of the drugs while he's in rehab for the addiction to those drugs, pethidine, as it were. And the first thing he does when he gets a job back is he gets to just handle your babies. That's that feels warm. Like, maybe like put him in the back and let him mop the floors or something. That seems a little more appropriate. So, in 1979, he's now 33 years old, and he gets back into general practice at Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde, England. And this is where things get interesting. Also this year, he has another son who is David. Lost my spot. Okay. So, yes, he has a son, David. Later in 79, when he gets back into the general practice, nothing really goes on. It seems quite quiet. In 1982, he has his last child, another son named Sam. And in 1985, at the age of 38, he experiences another major life event. What major life event takes place for him this year? Question number 5. You can stab at this if you'd like. It's pretty vague. And there are multiple choice options. Ariel, would you like to stab randomly and maybe try to get in the lead of this thing?
No.
Okay. Multiple choice options are, I'm going to drink some beer. That's not one of them.
So.
Got a foam stash here. One second. Okay. So, is it A, his brother dies? B, he has yet another child? C, his father dies? D, he is divorced?
Go for it, Aaron.
Divorced.
Aaron says divorced. Ariel?
Dad dies.
Dad dies. Well, you guys, in January of 1985, at the age of 38, Dr. Harold Shipman's father dies.
God damn it.
Ariel scores another 250, hanging around.
Hanging around.
So that will give us a score of Aaron 1250, Ariel 750. Anybody's game. Whew, I'm nervous. I'm nervous for you guys because this tiebreaker is worth 2 wins. Pretty huge.
Yeah.
And since the last time you guys have been on the show, and Greg 0, of course. And since the last time you guys have been on the show, we're sponsored now. So this is a Beer Savage sponsored podcast. So winners do get a prize pack, and I will mail that out to you probably tomorrow. So whoever the winner is today gets 2 victories in the all-time victory list for the Serial Chillers and a Beer Savage prize pack. Yay!
Awesome.
So, moving on.
I better win.
Well, you better score the most points. In 1985, Harold's father dies. He seems absolutely unaffected by this. He doesn't even take off work for the funeral. He continues working. It seems to be maybe even harder over the next years. Patients love him. Again, going back to the documentary that I watched, they have very first-hand interviews with. He had something like 3,000 patients at some point, and he was loved by every single one of them. People who weren't his patients wished they were his patients. He was like the dream doctor for everybody. So it's this very weird thing where some of the people, after they were interviewed, they had family members die at his watch, and they were like, but I should be mad at him and I should hate him, but he was just such a good doctor that I'm torn. And I'm not even kidding. That was the real things that are happening. So this guy is an amazing, incredible, caring, loving, over-attentive doctor. But he has sort of a sinister side. So
Yeah, and he kills people.
right. Well, and people are dying in his care, and it is slightly above the average rate. But I think that because he was so attentive otherwise, that people didn't really take notice quick enough. Because he was this incredible doctor to so many, that the few that were slipping through the cracks, although they were a little more than maybe the national average, weren't recognized as much. That's just my opinion on the matter. But we're going to take a short break right here. We're going to come back with the story that Ariel brought us. And if you don't come back, I'll kill you.
For just a moment, if you'd be so kind, go full savage. Video it. Then, and this is the most important part, DM it to @BeerSavage. And don't forget to support the movement at BeerSavage.com. For the real savages, use promo code SerialChillers for 20% off your entire purchase. Beer Savage. Good things stumble upon those who channel their inner Beer Savage.
Anyways. All right, well, guys, welcome back to the Serial Chillers podcast. We took a little break there because we needed to rest our brain from Dr. Fuckface. It's a different kind of serial killer. He's not this scary, don't fall asleep, sleep with one eye open, lock all your doors type killer. And that's where we've kind of been most of this show, is very bloody, very, very dark. And then we get to an angel of death, and I find myself feeling oddly worse about it for some reason, because when you're at home, you feel safe, but there still is, that's why we lock our doors. There's still this, small, sliver that danger is right around the corner, can come bursting through that door, come bursting through that window. When you're at your goddamn doctor's office and there's nothing wrong with you, that's probably the time you should feel the most safe. So part of me feels even worse for some of the people that were killed by Dr. Harold Shipman, because they were hanging out with their doctor and thought they were getting extra caretaking. Anyway, we'll get back to that. It's really dark, and I didn't expect it to be so dark. But hey, Ariel, I heard you have something that'll really lighten up the night.
Yes, it's very, very not light at all. No, it's pretty dark.
Oh, yes.
My case is actually not a murder. It's of a stabbing, and it has to do with an internet monster called Slender Man.
Ooh, he's so creepy.
So he's pretty creepy. So I'm sure people are Googling Slender Man right now. You should just check it out and look what he looks like. But the case is just called the Slender Man case. And the reason I picked it is because it's actually in the news right now. The two girls that are convicted of the crime or going through the trial or allegedly convicted or, excuse me, allegedly stabbed her friends, even there wasn't conviction. It's a complicated case, but I'll just go over what I have. So the case was in 2014 between two girls, two 12-year-old girls, Morgan and Anissa, and they had a mutual plan to kill a friend, Peyton, in order to meet their fictional online monster, Slender Man. This made national news, so a lot of people heard about this case when it came out. I'm sure you guys have.
Yeah,
Obviously,
absolutely.
the Slender Man case got pretty big. It got global attention, actually. The two girls believed that in order to know the secret lair location of Slenderman's mansion, they had to become his proxies. And in order to become proxies, you had to kill somebody
Seems legit.
for him.
Totally.
Yeah, kind of like gang initiation kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that when I joined my gang.
Oh, yeah. We all did. So the two girls became pretty obsessed with Slender Man. They both were isolated, awkward girls in middle school. And they found acceptance in this very open-ended monster that takes you in as you are unconditionally. They've even equated him to like Jack Skellington and other kind of friendly monsters. Creepy, but friendly.
But he
But
just
you do
sounded a
have to-
little godlike right there, didn't he?
little godlike with the whole sacrificial lamb stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So this shared belief grew in both the girls, and it became very real. Slender Man became real for both of them. So on May 31st, 2014, Morgan and Anissa led Peyton, another 12-year-old girl, into the woods. And Anissa was originally planned to stab and kill Peyton, but backed out last minute. So Anissa then convinced Morgan and almost commanded her to do it. So Morgan tackled Peyton, whispered on top of her, saying, "I'm sorry," and then stabbed her 19 times.
Whew.
Yeah. Again, all the girls here are 12 years old. Keep that in mind when listening to this, okay? Anissa then dragged Peyton's body off the trail and told her they were going to go get help and that she shouldn't move because the blood would run slower in her body if she tried to move around. The girls then left her and started their 400-mile journey into the national park where Slender Man would find them, apparently.
400 miles?
Yeah. And then that came up later where they didn't realize how far it was to actually get to the woods where Slender Man allegedly lives. So they kind of started to have a breakdown, the two of the girls, with Morgan even calling out for Slender Man's help. The cops eventually find them, and I don't want to get into the details of it. They actually did a documentary on the case, which was okay. The most interesting part of the documentary was actually their confessions, because you can see it all. They didn't edit any of it. You watch both the girls' confessions, which is pretty intense and interesting.
And even after the fact that they kind of realized it was a little more real now, they still are.
Yeah.
They're still very believing in Slender Man at this point.
Right.
Yeah, actually, Morgan was the one that kind of freaked out on the trail, realizing like, shit, we could go to prison, like we just killed someone, and then she freaked out. And excuse me, I got that reversed. Anissa freaked out, and then she freaked out Morgan, because Morgan's delusional belief about Slender Man was a little bit more real for her than Morgan. I keep getting them confused. I'm sorry, Anissa. Anyway, so meanwhile, as the girls are being picked up by the cops and taken, girl who was stabbed 19 times crawled to a bike path and actually was rescued by a biker, surviving the attack.
Little badass.
Hella. During custody, Morgan was diagnosed with childhood onset schizophrenia and ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. And she does have a schizophrenic father, which is also to take into fact. Judge denies them juvenile court because Wisconsin law states all murder and attempted murder charges for children older than 10 start in adult court.
So it still can be moved, but it's looking more likely that it's going to be they're charged as an adult.
No, they can't. They've already tried to go to juvenile court.
I see.
The judge
wow.
did deny them.
Wow.
So they're being charged as adults for this crime.
Yeah.
Had they been allowed in juvenile court, they would have been released at age 18. But by being prosecuted as adults, their conviction can be anywhere between 45 to 65 years.
As it should be. And I was thinking too, really quickly, kind of stepping back a little bit, the fact that they are 12 years old may have actually been the only thing that saved that girl. Is
right.
Maybe they just weren't quite strong enough to do it. If these girls are 16 and and maybe a little more of physical shape, it could have been a lot worse. But also they probably wouldn't have believed in all this shit. Sorry, go on.
I mean, she still got stabbed 19 times.
No doubt. Not downplaying that.
A couple times and then walked away.
I haven't been stabbed once and it hurts.
So the judge also ruled in Morgan's case that the 2014 confession/statements were voluntary and she was read her rights. So the confession stands. Again, both girls are only 12. Now, I know in the state of California, consent for therapy is at age 12. So, but that's after a therapist would in a room with the family, usually, sometimes not. The child can come in on their own, for sure. But we do have to go over informed consent. Now, that's not as an intense environment, in my opinion, in a interrogation room with a detective after having just gone through some crazy ass shit and having a detective not allow them to contact their parents.
Right. Wow.
But the judge ruled in the detective's favor and said that it's fine, that the confession stands.
So they were interviewed alone?
Yeah, separately.
But I mean, like, just the detective and them, and that's it?
That's it. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The most recent development actually happened yesterday for Anissa. Let's see. Somewhere in my notes. So according to Anissa's attorney, her broken mind caused her to lose touch with reality, and she was under the commands and controls of a delusional disorder. So Anissa is claiming she has, or her psychologist is claiming she has schizotypal personality disorder which is a delusional disorder / personality disorder. Interesting combo. The DA is stating in contrast that Anissa may have believed Slenderman was real, but had the mental capacity to know she was committing a crime. Anissa pleaded guilty to attempted second-degree intentional homicide, but also pleaded not guilty due to mental illness defect. So essentially, did her mental illness impact her at the time of the crime? And did the lack of capacity to understand her wrongful conduct is pretty much what they're asking the jury to figure out. So Anissa's trial will begin in October 9th this year. They're still figuring out Anissa for her diagnosis because she's currently in a mental health facility at the moment because she actually does have schizophrenia. And I watched an interview with her cell guard. She said that when she was in custody at the jail, her cell was a disaster, like papers everywhere. She had pictures of all kinds of things. She said that Snape from Harry Potter talked to her sometimes.
And Snape talks to me sometimes. So
he's pretty amazing. I wouldn't mind Alan Rickman's voice in my head.
Hello, I'm Alan Rickman.
And the guard said that she asked her about the papers, and she said, I have to keep this space open for everybody. Like, she's very out of touch with reality. Morgan more so than Anissa.
Were there
and so I
signs of that before this incident happened? Like, had either one of
Yes.
them been to?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
And correct me if I'm
Absolutely
wrong,
not.
really
They
quickly.
just wanted to come out of nowhere.
Isn't schizophrenia in females like far more uncommon? Or am I mistaken in that?
it's
definitely more with men. Men aged like 15 to 24 is the most common people diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Yes, and it actually develops later in females between like teens and up. So it's pretty rare to have childhood onset schizophrenia happen. But if you have already a parent that's schizophrenia, which she does.
Makes sense.
And also in her interview, she had some ODD, the oppositional defiant disorder, with a detective when he was questioning her about Slender Man. And she very much held the belief that if she didn't kill Peyton, then Slender Man would kill her and her family. Genuinely believed that. Her interview was creepy, only because like you definitely felt her belief system in that. Versus Anissa, I don't know. Watching her, I kind of had mixed feelings. Also, she was super honest, but it kind of empathy there either. And it was kind of interesting to watch. But again, they're 12 years old. They're caught up in this mythology online about this Slender Man character.
Right.
And that could have been any kid, really, like falling in love with a creature online or some obsession online.
Especially if they really believed it.
Mm-hmm. Well, one was definitely more susceptible than the other in falling into that. So I just thought it was an interesting case because they're being tried as adults, which I don't agree with.
12 seems very young to not even have a chance.
I don't remember what grade is that. What grade were they?
7th?
Middle school.
Yeah, 7th, 8th grade. 12
I
years
believe
old.
so. Yeah. So our brains stop developing when we're 25. So they still had
They were only halfway there.
No concept of the future. Yeah, they had no concept of the future or their consequences. So they didn't, or ramifications. Like they didn't really understand any of that. Yet we're okay as a society of charging with them as adults, or at least Wisconsin is. And I just, as someone who works with kids, like, man, I really disagreed with that in whole with the case. What they did was atrocious, yes. However, knowing about child development and taking that into fact, I don't know. That's where the law doesn't really match up with the science.
Right. And like you said too, if they serve 60 some odd years, there's no, I mean, even the minimal, you said 45, was
45.
it? You serve, we're talking by the time it's over, they're 60 years old.
Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting case, and definitely one to watch because it does set precedent for children, unfortunately, in our legal system.
Aaron, what were you going to say?
Do you think that like any 12-year-old that commits murder shouldn't be charged as an adult, or are you saying that in this specific case that you don't think they should be tried as an adult?
I think in this specific case, especially with Morgan, I mean, she is schizophrenic, 100%. I believe that just from looking at the evidence and watching her interview with the detective. There's obviously something going on with her brain. So why punish that with prison and not keep her in a psychiatric facility
and rehabilitate
and help her rehabilitate, or at least live a life semi-normal? And yes, I do believe it depends on each and every case. So,
right. Well, I mean, because and that is the problem. The problem is that when you're talking about the legal system, you have to have. It's very hard to have any law that's going to encompass all situations, and so you have to think: would you rather have it err on the side of we can try them as adults if we think that the case calls for it? Because you can't obviously just make a law that says we can't try them as adults, because there are 12-year-olds with maybe a psychiatrist won't diagnose them, but with personality disorders like psychopathy where rehabilitated, and there are 12-year-olds that will commit murders that you want to get the life sentences because they're not going to be rehabilitated and they should be in prison. And if you write the law in favor of those who have things like thought processing disorders like schizophrenia, then you run the potential of letting a 12-year-old get out of juvenile detention facility at 18 when they should be in prison for the rest of their lives.
She said it fantastically. So
Okay.
you actually defended both girls, whether you realize it or not. The thought processing disorder, that is definitely Morgan. The personality disorder is Anissa.
And they're different things.
Right. So, but they also did state in the Wisconsin law that they're okay with charging for murder or attempted murder at 10 years old. So that is a blanket law that they have on the books. They can raise that up to 12 or older, because I still think that's crazy. 10 years old is pretty young. But yeah, I hear you. It's tough to make a law.
It seems like the law should be written so we have the option to try them as adults. And maybe in this case, the law was applied improperly.
Absolutely.
But if you have it the other way around, you can't, like, you just make it a blanket, you can't try them, then you have no recourse when it comes to the 10-year-old that actually has that personality disorder that's never going to be rehabilitated. Because there are some people you don't want back on the streets. And I feel like, in my opinion, I would prefer to have the option there than to not have the option there to protect the 12-year-old that has schizophrenia that might get put in prison when they don't need to be.
Right.
To keep society safe.
But at the same time, we as therapists are not allowed to diagnose a kid at that age with a personality disorder.
Well, that's what I said. I said that. I understand that.
At what age? So, at what age is it an adult thing? They need to be 18
no
to
psychiatrist
be 18 or
diagnose a child with a personality disorder, because a personality disorder like that, you're basically saying you're screwed.
It's a life sentence just as much as prison is, right?
Plus,
nobody's going to do that.
Kids at that age all look at they all kind of, look like narcissists. It's all about me, 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 me. I want. This is what I want and what I'm going to get. Like these girls, we're going to be a part of Slenderman's group. We're going to know him. He's going to be our protector. Like, they genuinely believe this. Because they were not fully capable of
Look at that.
Lots of thoughts.
Serial Chillers podcast, sounding smarter whenever Ariel and Aaron are on.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying, though, Ariel. I really do, because I understand that.
I hear what you're saying too.
You come from that empathetic, emotional place, and I can relate to it, because even when adults are tried as for murders, when they are schizophrenic, mass shooters who tend to be, it's like serial killers tend to have psychopathy, and mass shooters tend to have schizophrenia and have thought processing disorders. And when I hear about them, it's tragic. But most of the time, I don't immediately think, oh, like evil person that shot a bunch of people, because most of the time I think they probably have a thought processing disorder, and they have a psychotic disorder that they can't control. And yes, they should be in a mental facility for the rest of their lives, but the rest of society wants to give them a death penalty or give them life in prison, because they think that they're evil and they can't empathize with somebody who shot a bunch of people. And you and I are different.
Yes.
In that way. But I understand that it's completely different when it comes to children, because there's a whole other emotional aspect that you have to deal with because they're children.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you guys are like the best of friends, but you guys like seriously come from like such different walks. It's so interesting.
We talk about that all the time.
Exactly. Well, is there anything like more that we need to look at the case? Any more updates, or we just kind of keep?
Just stay up to date with it. I mean, it's an important case, and it's.
I did already make a note here that I'm gonna keep the listeners updated on this one. There's a few currently ongoing cases that people have brought to the show, and this is one that I heard of. Right, I mean, I think very soon after it happened. I think it blew up really big when it first happened, and it's someone who was constantly on the internet, and it being about an internet monster, it trolled right across my my eyes there. So. Wow. Okay. So we're going to keep an eye on that one. That was, I mean, hey. Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was deep, man.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Well, and I have, little girls. So it's weird for me to think about, the possibility of things like this. They find something that they become enamored with. And, and I understand that one girl's schizophrenic, but one girl seems to have maybe just been taken for a ride with the girl who was a little more unstable.
Well, and then also you have to think about, you have little girls, and there was a 12-year-old that was stabbed 19 times.
Exactly. So regardless of whether you're believing it or not, there are bizarre things out there, and it is definitely, it hit a little close to home. Hit a little close to home over here at the Serial Chiller Studio.
Yeah.
So let's jump back into this really lovely guy, Dr. Harold Frederick Shipman. I've been calling him Fuckface plenty, and I think it suits. Before we get into anything else, you guys, I just want to tell you, there are 2 questions at the top here. They're going to be back to back. Then we're going to talk about so many murders. And I don't know if you guys have listened to the show very much, but I kind of like to blow through the murders. They're not my favorite part of this. I know it's some people's favorite part of serial killers, and I don't really understand it. It's not my favorite part. So we're going to get through them, and I have a little bit of details for you, but there's 2 questions at the top, and then we're going to get to another break. We'll get past it together. Sound good?
Sounds good. Mm-hmm.
Let's motherfucking compete up in this bitch. Question number 6. The people we're about to look at are a list of proven killings by Dr. Fuckface. So these are the ones that he's going to court for later. How many victims will there be? You can guess.
You mean proven victims, not
proven? This is not suspected, nothing. This is proven, and he's going to. These are the ones that they're going to take him to court for. Essentially, we're looking at that. He's suspected of more beyond this, so you can stab at it for 1,000. And I do have multiple choice options for you. You got to be exact if you're going to stab, though.
Multiple choice.
Multiple choice.
All right. Is it 4, 7, 12, or 15?
All you, Ariel.
I'm going to go with 15.
The max, 15.
Yeah.
I am also going to go with 15, and I just noticed that your shirt is awesome. Her shirt says the Winchester Brothers, and that makes me really happy. 15, final answer.
Both of you go with 15, and before I tell you if you were right or wrong, I'm going to give you the next question. What is his method? How is he going to commit most of, if not all of these murders? This is another multiple choice. This one's going to be multiple choice only. And I will give you this too. His victims are all elderly. Mm-hmm. So, does he smother them? Inject an air bubble into their veins? Overdose them with morphine? Or stabs them in very precise, often overlooked areas he knows from being a doctor? Smothers them, injects an air bubble, overdoses them on morphine, or stabs them in very precise, often overlooked areas?
Overdoses with morphine.
I'm torn between the bubble and the morphine. Just because I don't want to be a copycat, I'm going to go with the bubble.
Aaron doesn't want to be a copycat, goes with the bubble. We're going to travel back to question number 1. You guys were both correct with 15. Whoa. You were both going to get 250 points on that one. Great job, guys. Great job. We're going to move down to question number 7 here. What was his method? Dr. Harold Fuckface Shipman, on nearly all, if not all of his murders, overdosed his victims on morphine.
God damn it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Ariel will take down 250 for each of those questions, while Aaron will get 250 for number 6 and does not score on number 7. Aaron now at 1,500 total. Ariel, 1,250. Whoa. Oh, man, I should have written a tiebreaker. You ladies. All 15 of the victims we're going to talk about right now are suspected morphine overdoses. Every single one of these ones.
Okay.
So, on March 6th, 1995, Harold Shipman murders Marie West, who was 81, at her home, unaware that her friend was in the next room. Marion Hadfield was waiting in the kitchen while Dr. Shipman injected Mrs. West with diamorphine. Shipman later claimed that Mrs. West had died of a massive stroke, and police found her medical records at the doctor's home later during a search with many others. So this is kind of creepy. I just want to give you guys this one now. When they searched his home later, after it's all said and done, they found a ton of these medical records up in his attic, and all of them, of his deceased victims, just have dead written across them in red ink. And they're all in one box stashed up in his attic. So anyway, slightly incriminating it feels, but over a year later, on July 11th, 1996, Mrs. Irene Turner is murdered at the age of 67. She does have a complicated medical history and had recently returned from holiday with a cold when she was visited by Dr. Shipman on the 11th, and the doctor killed her as well with a morphine injection. As she lay dying, Shipman then asked neighbor Sheila Ward to pack clothes for Mrs. Turner as she needed to go to the hospital. Shipman later claimed that Mrs. Turner died from diabetes. After exhumation, Mrs. Turner's body would be found to contain morphine. That's another point about this. When they find out later that a lot of these people are dying, a lot of the bodies are exhumed so that they can be taken a look at, and every body that is exhumed shows sign of diamorphine. On February 8th, 1997, one day after my 10th birthday, Harold Shipman claimed that he had phoned an ambulance for Lizzie Adams, and he was discovered in her home on February 28th. One of her friends essentially was coming over to say hello and noticed Dr. Shipman was there. Shipman then pretended to cancel the ambulance when it was clear the 77-year-old dancing teacher was dead. Phone records show that no call to the ambulance were made, and no subsequent call to call the ambulance off was ever made. Shipman said she died of pneumonia, and her medical records were found in a carrier bag in his garage, also with the red letters spelling dead. On April 25th, 1997, Shipman he is called to Mrs. Jean Lilly's home. A neighbor saw him leave and the neighbor went in to see if everything was okay, but he found her dead. Shipman said the 59-year-old had died of heart failure. A pathologist found no evidence of severe heart problems and found cause of death to be morphine poisoning. Yes, indeed. Lovely. May 20th, 1997, Dr. Shipman killed Ivy Lomas, who was 63, at his office. He then carried on seeing other patients before telling anyone she had died. He also altered her medical records 2 days later. Shipman told police and his receptionist conflicting stories of how she had died, and the court heard how the GP had considered Mrs. Lomas a, quote, nuisance because she was such a regular attender of the surgery. He joked about having a sign over seats in the waiting room saying, quote, reserved for Ivy Lomas. What a dick. On July 14th, 1997, Mrs. Muriel Grimshaw, who was 76 years old, was found dead in her home by her daughter, Anne Brown. Dr. Shipman claimed that she had died from a stroke and hypertension. He then altered her medical records to hide her cause of death. Mrs. Grimshaw's body was exhumed, and a pathologist found high levels of diamorphine. On November 24th, 1997, Dr. Shipman again killed. This time it was Marie Quinn by injecting her with diamorphine at her home. He told her son that Mrs. Quinn had phoned him saying she thought she had a stroke. The doctors said that she was dead by the time he arrived at her home. Phone records show no such call was made, nor was there any evidence that Mrs. Quinn had ever suffered from problems he said that she had. I don't understand. What are we, 5 or 6 deep here? No matter how well liked you are in the community, there is a term that some use for serial killers when they go berserker. There's, a time where Ted Bundy had the dorm where he went in, and I think he killed 8 women. There are moments in time where we see a serial killer just start going for it, and this seems to be that time. God damn it. I find it so hard to believe that over just 2 years, he's essentially found standing over the body of a dead person in his care in slightly suspicious circumstances. And everybody's like, yeah, but it's Dr. Shipman. He's a good guy. We got this.
Well, how many of the people that are finding him in these situations are connected to the people in the other situations that are suspicious?
Apparently not enough. Because
maybe they're not talking. Maybe you think this is kind of suspicious, but I don't know that there were 6 other times that it was suspicious because I don't know those people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I need to know. That's the problem, Aaron. On December 9th, 1997, Miss Kathleen Wagstaff was killed after she was injected with morphine. He claimed her death was due to heart disease. She was 81 years old. Shipman also said that he had received a call to attend to Mrs. Wagstaff, but records show no such call was made and no evidence of heart disease was found. The next day, on December 10th, 1997, Mrs. Bianco Pomfret phoned Shipman from home for a home visit on December 10th, 1997, and was later found dead in her chair. Dr. Fuckface claimed that she had a stroke and trouble and had died of coronary thrombosis and ischemic heart disease, almost certainly mispronounced. Experts found Shipman had altered Miss Pomfret's records in the hour before her body was discovered to generate a backdated history of heart disease. A pathologist found excessive morphine levels in her exhumed body. January 26th, 1998, Shipman visited with Mrs. Nora Nuttall at her home. Less than an hour later, her son returned to find his mother slumped in a chair. Dr. Shipman said that he had called an ambulance when Mrs. Nuttall was found to be dead. He pretended to make another call to cancel it. Phone records again showed the GP had neither ordered nor canceled the ambulance. February 9th, 1998, Mrs. Pamela Hillier was an active 68-year-old who was stripping wallpaper the week before her death. She was found dead that morning by paramedics who said the police should be told. Dr. Shipman said she had died of massive stroke and there was no need for a post-mortem. Police computer experts found that he had 10 changes to her medical records in the 2 hours before her body had been found to support his diagnosis. This guy, I told you, it's so fucked. On February 18th, 1998, Miss Maureen Ward, who was 57 years old, had been suffering from cancer, but was not in ill health at the time of her death. Shipman reported her death to the warden at the flats where she lived, saying that she had a brain tumor. So essentially, he hits up her landlord. Hey, she's got this brain tumor up here. She's dead. I don't know if is that a maintenance thing or... Shipman murdered her using, again, diamorphine before reporting that her sudden death had been caused by the brain tumor. We're getting closer to the end. He then altered her medical records to suggest her cancer had spread to her brain, but a cancer specialist who had seen her a month earlier told the court there were no signs of cancer, that her cancer had returned. So she was in remission at this point. And later, later in 98, there's a complaint made that Shipman had prescribed the wrong dose of Epilem to a patient with epilepsy, and a civil case for negligence was pursued and settled for £25,000. On March 24th, 1998, he's now 51 years old, and concerns about the excess number of deaths among his patients are reported by a local general. So finally, somebody is asking questions, and it's not a doctor, it is the funeral director, because every time the funeral director is going to pick up a body, any other doctor that does home calls and they pick up a body, they notice that the body is in bed, they're in their pajamas, they're on their way out. You don't, on the day you die, they have seen in their line of work, you don't wake up and get dressed and go about your day shopping and then the doctor comes over when you start to feel ill and you die. People they don't get up and go out that day. They're frail and they begin to feel ill and they die. So they bring this up, and this was the daughter of the main undertaker, and this guy goes and talks to Dr. Harold Shipman directly. And Shipman assures him, he shows him the medical records, like, look, this is what it is. I have it right here in front of you. And he sort of takes it at face value. He's the undertaker. That's the doctor. I get it. But they didn't quite leave it alone, because the daughter had a very bad feeling. She goes to another doctor who was right across the street from Dr. Harold Shipman's surgery, they called it. And this funeral service also often did pickups for this doctor as well. And they had to let somebody know that maybe had a better opinion about it. And also, not a lot taken into consideration when the daughter of the Undertaker told the doctor, "I believe this other doctor is killing people." So I think for me, I think it took a lot of balls even to just bring up the fact that there's something like that going on. So anyway, on June 12th, 1998, Mrs. Malia was 73 years old, and she was visited by Shipman. She visited Shipman at his office. She was suffering from a chest infection. He made a house call to her home earlier that day, and she was later found dead in her chair. The GP did not bother to examine Miss Malia before issuing a death certificate for pneumonia aggravated by emphysema. A pathologist later found evidence of morphine, but not of a serious lung problem. On June 24th, 1998, at 52, he is still just going berserker. Mrs. Grundy was in good health and very active the day before her death. She was visited by Shipman early that morning for a blood sample and was later found dead sitting in her chair. When her body was exhumed 1 month later, high amounts of morphine were found. There was no record of any blood sample having been taken of Shipman, and Shipman also falsified written and computer records to make it look as though Miss Grundy was a drug abuser. Shipman starting to lose it here a little bit because the family is very devastated. They didn't think that their mother was anywhere near death. However, here she is dead, and their very trusted family doctor just says, excuse me, this is, how it goes sometimes. I'll set it up for her to be taken care of. And they said, we need it very specific. We're Catholic. We'll take care of the body. They get called in by Mrs. Grundy's lawyer, and it's about the will. And in the will, Mrs. Grundy has left everything of her 400,000 pound estate to Dr. Fuckface Harold Shipman.
Ooh.
Police say the will was typed on a typewriter that they found at Dr. Shipman's office, but he willingly gave up the typewriter, saying that he often lent it to Mrs. Grundy. And the signatures of Mrs. Grundy and the witnesses have possibly been forged. So we're going to take our last short break here. We're pretty much done with crazy murders. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about how we wrap up with Dr. Harold Shipman, but now you guys kind of know a little bit more about what he's about, and we can all hate him together on the third segment.
Hey, this is Sarah, Sam, and Casey from Just Another Murder Podcast.
We are three Aussie ladies chatting about murder and making funny jokes.
More like bad jokes.
Inappropriate jokes.
Sorry.
Go listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Insta, Twitter, and Facebook. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bastards. All right, well, welcome back to episode 19 of the Serial Chillers podcast. Back again, your host, Jesse. Across the internet, we do have Aaron and Ariel, and hiding somewhere in a corner in the internet, but on with us as well, producer Greg. So, we've talked about the many murders of Dr. Harold Shipman. Kind of talked about his MO. Off air here, Ariel brought up the fact that maybe... she asked me how his mother was found when she died, and that's actually not information that I had, and producer Greg hopefully is tracking that down as we speak, but Ariel brought up a great point, is that a lot of these people are found in chairs, fully clothed, and, like I had said at the beginning, his mother may have been killed by a morphine overdose, an accidental one, or maybe it wasn't, and that's just speculation as well, but perhaps his mother was found in a very similar fashion, sort of creating his MO. So it's kind of an interesting thought that I hadn't thought of. And like I said, none of the things that I read or that I watched really pointed out how his mother was found. But you wouldn't be the first person ever to come up with an original idea about something. It's pretty good. Look at that. You came up with an idea that maybe no one else has had about the case. I mean,
I sincerely doubt it.
Well,
but it's just an interesting thought, I guess.
You could doubt it, but I did a lot of Harold Shipman research this week, and no one mentions how she's found. So perhaps she was just in bed and everything was as you expect it to be, but maybe there was a little more to it. So it's just something interesting that I thought. Thank you for bringing that up, and I always like to bring those cool little points to the forefront. So remember we left off with the family being pretty upset to find out that Mrs. Grundy's will had been left all to Dr. Harold Shipman. He's been found to be in possession of a typewriter that the will has clearly been filled out with. We may even have fake witness signatures on the will itself. So, September 7th, 1998, Harold Shipman is arrested by the Greater Manchester Police for the murder of Kathleen Grundy. So finally, it's all coming down. Question number 8. This one is unique. I have never done this before. You guys have a chance at scoring multiple times on this question. We are at question number 8. What are the ways that Shipman would try to cover his tracks? Some of these you guys have been given the answer to. Some of them you haven't been. Here's how this is going to work. I think I have, 6 options for you. Some of these are ways that he tried to cover his tracks. Some are not. Choose as many as you like. All of the correct answers you get are worth 100 points. All of the incorrect answers you get are worth negative 100 points. Okay? So,
Sounds good.
here are the 6 ways. Backlogged medical records. Hid bodies in morgues under false names. Nearly immediately cremated bodies. Called for no autopsies. Waits for some times before calling relatives when family members die. And staging scenes. I can go down those again if you'd like, but choose as many as you like. Did he backlog medical records? Hide bodies in morgues under false names? Immediately cremate bodies? Call for no autopsies? Wait for some time before letting relatives know? Or stage scenes? Could be all, could be none. Choose as many as you'd like.
Go ahead, Ariel. Choose as many as you like.
Okay, I'm going to choose 4. Cremated, immediate cremated. Call for no autopsies. Waited to tell relatives, and staging scenes.
All right, I say everything except for hiding bodies in the morgues under different names. So everything she said, but also backlogging medical records.
Okay.
Yeah. Quick, can I add backlogging too? I just realized you said that earlier.
The only 2 things he did not do was hide bodies in the morgue and stage scenes.
Damn it.
So, okay, so 300 points to each of them.
We're going to be in the same position, so it doesn't matter.
We've got 1,800 to 1,550. At least the scores look different than a 250 increment for once on the show. All right. We're never doing one of those again. That was way too confusing for me. In 1998, at the age of 52, several of Shipman's victims' bodies are exhumed for post-mortem examination. Several suspected victims were cremated and could not be exhumed. Again, like I said earlier too, every single one that was exhumed was found to have morphine in their system, however they were tested, whether it was hair or skin. Through 98 and 99, the investigation uncovers that Shipman backlogged fabricated medical notes to be congruent with his diagnosis of cause of death. It is also brought to light that many of the quote-unquote ill patients were found fully clothed in chairs or lying on couches. We kind of already covered that a little bit. In October 5th, 1999, he will be brought to trial for 15 murders of patients who had died unexpectedly from suspected morphine overdoses. During his trial, a web of lies, including unmade phone calls for ambulances, backlogged notes, and forged signatures will contribute to his conviction. Additionally, his arrogance comes out through witnesses' accounts of his callous attitude toward victims and their family. So towards the end, he was just being ruthless. People were coming out of surgery and it wouldn't go well, and the family members would ask, how did it go? And he'd say, well, how well do you think it did? The only way she's leaving today is through the funeral home.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he was being
sensitive.
He got very, very brutal, very, very malicious to patients, victims, and their family. So, hair samples confirm that almost every victim. Oh, I'm sorry. So they take the hair samples to essentially check the back date of, anybody who may be a drug addict. There's the further back in the hair it is, the further the drug in the back. None of these people showed any signs of morphine addiction before their deaths. So it was all just one major event where they overdosed on a single overdose of morphine. On January 31st, 2000, he is sentenced this day. He's going to receive life sentences for each of the murders that he is charged with. So of the 15, how many life sentences was he given? Closest gets 250.
Is this supposed to be like a blind guess?
Yep.
No multiple choice.
No multiple choices on this one. There are 15 possible life sentences that he is given in this case. How many of them is he convicted with?
I don't know.
It's so hard because he's a fuck face.
I'll have Aaron answer first.
Why?
I don't know either.
Aaron doesn't want to answer first. Wait, are we playing Price is Right rules?
It's only Price is Right if you guys split like you did at the beginning. Like you were both three off in opposite directions. Otherwise, it is not Price is Right rules. Just the closest to it.
I'm going to say 10.
Aaron says 10. Ariel.
15.
Ariel thinks he got the max 15 of them. So, on January 31st, 2000, welcome to the new millennium, everybody, by the way. Harold Fuckface Shipman is given 15 life sentences in prison after being found guilty of murdering all 15 elderly patients, as well as forging Kathleen Grundy's will. That 250 points is going to tie this thing at 1,800. My gosh. Wow. You guys know drama. That's what I can tell you right now. So we've got 1,800 for Aaron, 1,800 for Ariel, who has only not scored on question number 2 and 4. She's just slow and steady. Slow and steady, y'all. So there are 2 more questions left. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. There's plenty of time. I can't believe that. Okay, you guys are good. That's just really what's happening here. That's what's happening. On February 1st, 2000, Health Secretary Alan Milburn announces an inquiry of, quote, circumstances surrounding the murders and the investigation. They're going to start looking into some of his even further back patients, and it's going to kind of start looking at a little bit more of the broad. Again, in February 2000, police make it known that they are investigating Shipman for his role in an additional number of murders. This one, also not multiple choice. Only one of you are going to score on this one. How many murders are they looking at him for? The closest is going to get 250 points. They've done their investigation. It's been a year since he's charged with 15. There are some additionals. They've got kind of a preliminary list. We think he's done this many more. What is that number? 1 year after his conviction, the police are going to announce this. 13 months to be exact.
Oh, 1 year.
Well, so Ariel, go ahead. Take it away.
So they've only investigated him for a year at this point.
They've been investigating him for about 2, because they invested him for about a year leading up to the arrest, and there was kind of not a lot of
for the 15.
Right.
They're adding additional ones to it.
Correct. And they've been looking at those for about 13 months.
Can I ask a question?
You can. I can't promise I'll answer.
At this point, how long has he been a doctor?
since 19. Let me go back here. Gotta go back.
Here's a better question. Since the first murder that of the 15 that they confirmed, like how long they know he's been killing.
This is them looking back as far as they can, as far as I know, which he's been a doctor since the 70s. I can tell you that.
Okay.
So as far as they can, they've come up with the number that they believe he is committed.
Okay.
And they announce it. They make a big deal of it, like breaking news. Police say Harold Shipman may be involved in X amount of murders.
So maybe like that's only been a year, so I'm going to say it's pretty low. Like maybe under 10.
I'm going to give this to both of you. He has been a doctor for 30 years. They do have a year, and I know that doesn't seem like a long time to look at it. And I'm not saying that it is some high number, and I'm not trying to change your guess. I just want to give this to both of you. That, medical records were fairly easy to get a hold of. There's no major holdups for this. He didn't have a lot of time to hide things from the time that he realized he was being investigated to the time he was put away. So just giving you that and letting you take your guess off that. I know there's not a lot of context to this. Greg's saying pass to him, and that's not allowed.
No passing or questions to Greg.
Sorry.
No, Greg's cheating over there. We can't cheat because we're on our computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here, let me just go and look on the... No, I'm just kidding.
So we have to stab. This sucks.
That's it. Because only one of you is getting points. The closest to the guess.
Going first. It sucks. I wrote down my answer already. I wrote it down right here, but I'm not saying it until you go.
All right, for 30 years been doctor. I don't know, like, I'm just going to stab at, 100.
Ariel says 100. She feels very nervous. It is 1800 to 1800. Aaron, what did you write down?
I wrote down 175.
Aaron wrote down 175. It's too bad there's no bonus points because police make it known they are investigating Shipman's role in 175 deaths.
No way.
On the nose.
No way.
Aaron is going to pull slightly ahead, 2,050 to 1,800 with 10 of 11 questions in the book. Oh, man. Aaron can almost taste the Beer Savage prize pack and sweet victory.
If I win. If I lose, I'm going to burn it.
How the hell did she guess that?
What?
I said, how the hell did she guess that?
I wonder if that's what I did.
She saw the reflection in my eyes. Okay.
Wow.
Well, that is quite impressive. So, we're rolling right into question 11, you guys.
Okay. Got it.
It's the last question.
Believe it or not, I made this one for 500 points. We are talking make or break. This is essentially winner take all right here. Because if Ariel gets it, she's going up by 250.
Wait, what's the score?
1,800 to 2,050. It's 250 point separation. This one is for 500. Only one of you is scoring. Question number 11. After 2 more years of investigation, the police are confident they know how many he actually murdered. What is that number? This is going to be winner take all for somebody here. Aaron, that was an amazing guess last time. Let's see what you got this time. Take your time. Take your time. 2 more years of investigating. They're
and Aaron
confident.
gets to go first because I went first last time.
Ooh, snip, snap.
Doesn't seem fair. I feel like maybe we should both write our answers down.
I'm okay with that.
Change our answers based on the other person's.
I'm okay with
answer.
that. Write yours down.
I want to take a stab before you answer.
And Greg, just write yours down too.
There's no multiple choice, right?
No multiple choice. Closest to it is getting the points.
All right.
I'm just making the most absurd number at this point.
All right.
Go big or go home.
All right.
Greg, did you write yours down or you just want to say it? Greg is saying he wants to go last. Okay.
I'll go last.
All right.
But didn't he look it up?
No, he looked up the other number, I think. Okay. So let's see what you guys got there.
Who's going first?
Just pop them both up. That way they'll both be up. I can't. 300 says Ariel. What you got there? What's does that say?
235.
Okay. Who is gonna win? Who is gonna win the Serial Chillers podcast? Question 11 was, after a 2-year investigation, the police are confident they know how many he actually murdered. What is the number? Your episode 19 champion,
Aaron.
A report comes in that Harold Fuckface Shipman has killed at least, but they are almost confident it is exactly 215 patients between 1975 and 1998.
Wait, 215?
215.
So Greg was only 3 off.
Yeah.
Greg was only 3 off, but he's not here to score points.
So I win by default.
So it's not a default. You won because you're competing and you got the closest answer to the people who were competing. So congratulations, Aaron, on your victory.
Yay!
I'll send you out a Beer Savage prize package pretty soon here. You're also getting 2 wins on the Serial Chillers charts for this one. So here, we'll finish up with Harold Shipman real quick here. January 13th, 2004. This is 2 more years later, on his 58th birthday. They go to do rounds in the prison cells, and they have found that Harold Fuckface Shipman has tied his bed sheets into a noose and taken his own life while in prison. He did it only minutes after he turned 58. He turns 58 and midnight, and they find him at 6 a.m. The reason for this: since he survived 58, his wife had full access to his £100,000 retirement fund, and only if he lived to the age of 58. So he lived to exactly the age of 58 and then ended his own life.
So she got his retirement fund even though his retirement fund came from him being a doctor and killing people?
Yes.
That sounds like a lot of bullshit to me.
Hey, someone's...
Blood money.
Blood money. So victims' families were very torn at hearing this news. They were both happy that he was dead, but very upset that he got the easy way out. That's pretty much the long and short of Dr. Harold Shipman. He's dead now, so there's not a lot else. They've all but confirmed 215 kills. So by far the most prolific serial killer that we've done on the show so far. Again, I know he wasn't quite the predator that some of these killers we've talked about have been, but almost worse in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, where else, I mean, really, not rhetorically, where else do you feel safer than in your doctor's office? I know it's kind of, some people have a little bit of a phobia, but for me, that if there's a place I'd like to be to feel comfortable and safe and that I'm going to be okay, it would probably be my physician's office. But that's, right. I mean, I don't, you guys can answer if you want. It's not really a big deal, but it's a very...
This might sound like a stupid question, but like overdosing on morphine, I mean, morphine's a painkiller. So is that kind of just like falling asleep? That's
exactly what it is. They all died painless deaths.
I'm not saying that that's okay, but at least his 215 victims died without pain.
Very correct. They went to sleep and they never woke up. So thank you guys so much for being here, for running late with me here. I know you're both very tired, and you expressed that to me, and I appreciate you very much for coming on and sticking with it. We're like 2 hours deep here, so thank you again. So specifically, thank you, Ariel, for your story. Creep me the fuck out, and I appreciate that. That's what it's all about.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Aaron, for your insight and debate. You thought you had nothing to say, and look where we are now.
Winner, chicken dinner.
So congratulations on your victory. Again, I'll get that Beer Savage prize package out to you soon. Let's once more thank producer Greg for coming out and overseeing everything as he usually does from a distance. That's it, guys. Thank everybody for coming out for episode 19 of the Serial Chillers podcast.
Bye.
All right, that was episode 19. Thank you guys so much for coming by. Thank you again to Ariel, and congratulations to Aaron. Covering an Angel of Death was kind of an interesting thing, as I'm sure you guys heard when I was telling the story. It's a little frustrating to me. I feel a little bit of an extra level of hatred for Dr. Fuckface. He took an oath to protect and help people and took advantage of that trust that people had in him. So it really extra irks me for whatever reason. Congratulations again goes to Aaron, who after a tie last time with Ariel gets 2 wins on the scoreboard for this one. Tell me what you think of the case, if I missed anything or I was incorrect anywhere. Especially since it was a non-American serial killer, I found myself possibly misinterpreting some things in these British documentaries. You can reach out to me many ways. You can do it through Facebook. That's just Serial Chillers Podcast. On Instagram, it's at Serial Chillers Podcast. Twitter is at Chillers Podcast. The email is serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. And, of course, there is the voicemail line. That is 1-805-666-2513. Remember, again, the show is on YouTube now. So if you like to listen on YouTube, it's there for you. Every episode will be there, including the entire back catalog. So lastly, patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. This one is a huge one. Trying to progress the show as much as I can. There may be a little bit of merch coming down the line to possibly give you guys something in return for those dollars. But if you're someone who just likes the show and is willing to give as little as $1 a month, you could do that on the Patreon, and it helps more than you actually know, and it's appreciated even more than that. Lastly, you can find me on Untappd and see what I think of all the beers we're having on the show today. This episode included drinking Cloudy with a Chance of Juice, which is a New England-style juicy pale, and Pickle Rick, which is a cucumber saison, both by Tioga Sequoia. Pickle Rick! Research came from the Radford University Timeline. It was researched by Regina Pugh, Nikki Reed, Callie Scudder, and Cindy Rhine. Used good old Wikipedia and Murderpedia. The article was Dr. Harold Shipman, the world's most prolific serial killer, by Ted Otley, and that was a TrueTV.com article fed into the Murderpedia. The documentary I watched was a UK documentary from Channel 5. It was a 2-parter on Harold Shipman. Part 1 was called Driven to Kill, and Part 2 was called Chasing Dr. Death. The music for today's episode, the intro is again Broken Glass and Potato Chips by Fred Get Stoned and the Barney Rumbles. You can hear lots of cool sounds like this and more at soundcloud.com/HellaGreg. The outro is by me, and if you are still listening, thank you so much for the support, and as always, don't talk to strangers.